It's 2:43 a.m. I don't know what woke me first. The faint thud in the distance or the wind rattling what's left of the tower above me. It's been like that all night. Something always moving. Something always falling apart. I keep the light dim so it doesn't draw anything to the station, but I can still see the flakes of ash drifting past the broken window. They float like snow, but heavier, darker, almost oily. It never stops anymore. This is Isaac Rowe, and if you can still hear me, if any of you still have a signal, this is 99.4 FM. Still broadcasting from what used to be the heartland. They said the Midwest would be safe. Turns out, that was a lie like all the rest. I can't see the horizon tonight. It's just a black sheet. When I shine the beam outside, the air catches it like smoke. The last time I saw a clear sky was 11 days ago, before the second wave. Since then, every hour feels like it's happening underwater. The static, the silence, the faint ringing in my ears, they've all blended into one long sound. I heard from a trucker yesterday, his name was Dale, calling from the edge of Kansas City before the signal dropped, that the highway's nothing but glass now. He said cars melted into the road, said there's a crater where downtown used to be. His voice was breaking up, but I could still make out the word he whispered before the line cut out. Hollow. That word's been stuck in my head ever since. The last federal transmission I picked up was from NORAD 2 nights ago. A coded burst, barely readable. It ended mid-sentence. No one's taken responsibility for the strikes, but everyone knows who lit the fuse. First it was the eastern seaboard, then Moscow, then Beijing. By the time Europe responded, half their grid was gone. The world didn't end all at once. It just started flickering like a dying bulb. If you're hearing this, I want you to know something. The lines are open. The backup generator's running. You can still reach me if you can find a way to tune in. Channel 14 shortwave, or this FM line if you're within 80 miles. I'm not sure why I'm still talking. Maybe because silence feels worse. Earlier tonight, I went out behind the tower. The field used to stretch all the way to a tree line. Now it's just a slope of black dirt. The air buzzes with static. My watch stopped again at 1:12 a.m. Same time it stopped last week. When I tapped the glass, it flickered once and died. I don't think time works right anymore. Somewhere north, near Des Moines, there were lights last night. Faint, moving in a slow circle. I thought it might be aircraft, but it didn't sound like engines. It was silent, just lights gliding low, then vanishing. I tried to call out on the emergency band, but nothing came back. People keep asking what started it. The truth is, no one really knows. There are theories, sure. Military insiders claiming a satellite malfunction, others saying it was a cyber trigger, that one side mistook a decoy for an attack. But the more I listen to these old tapes from before the fall, the clearer it becomes that everyone was waiting for it. The whole world sitting on a hair trigger, hoping someone else would blink. I found an old notebook here at the station with scribbles from the previous host. Notes about maintenance, frequency calibration, a few random diary lines. The last entry says, "If the alarms sound, don't look east. Just keep your head down and count to 60. He didn't make it to 60. It's hard to keep the broadcast going. The generator burns through fuel fast, and every time I step outside, I can hear the wind carrying distant alarms. Those long, slow wails that rise and fall until they fade into a low hum. They used to mean, seek shelter. Now they don't mean anything. There's no one left to run them. The silence between signals is the worst part. I spend hours turning the dial, hoping to find another voice. Once I caught something, a fragment of speech, a woman repeating a set of coordinates. She said, "Safe zone established, northern border. Bring iodine. Bring..." And then static. I wrote it down, but it doesn't matter. Every time I try to triangulate the location, the signal shifts, as if the world itself doesn't want me to find it. If you're out there, if you can hear me, tell me what it looks like where you are. Tell me what's left. My transmitter can still take in voice if your shortwave's intact. I'll tell you what I know. Day 18. The cities are gone. New York, DC, London, Berlin, all confirmed strikes. There were flashes in the desert near Nevada, probably test sites hit again to make sure nothing could ever rise there. The maps are useless now. Half the roads are unrecognizable, melted or buried. The sky still glows faint orange when the wind clears, like distant fire still climbing from the ground. I used to think it was dawn, but dawn doesn't come anymore. Just different shades of night. Yesterday, I found a message etched into the metal door of the broadcast room. It says, "Keep talking. Someone is listening." So I am. About an hour ago, the signal meter spiked. I thought it was interference from the storm, but then a voice broke through. A man, older, calm, like he'd been doing this a long time. He said his name was Everett, calling from what's left of Nashville. He said, "We rebuilt a transmitter using car batteries and wire. We've got a few families down here, 30 people, maybe 40. Tell anyone listening, don't come south. The radiation belt's moving this way. The rivers glow at night." Then he coughed, once, and the static swallowed him whole. I keep a small analog clock next to the mic. The tick keeps me sane. I listen to it between transmissions. It sounds steady, even when everything else shakes. Sometimes I wonder if I'm the last one still speaking into this endless noise. The other day, I tried reaching the old FEMA relay near Omaha. No response, just a low pulse tone every 8 seconds. Some say that means the system's still alive, waiting for a handshake. Others say it's just a ghost in the line. Whatever it is, it's something. And that's enough. I don't sleep much anymore. When I do, I dream of static, endless white noise, stretching across the horizon like an ocean. I wake up thinking I hear voices hidden in it. Whispers, fragments, people calling my name. Sometimes I think they're real. Sometimes I think the radiation's finally getting to me. But then I turn the mic back on, and the hum of the transmitter feels like a heartbeat. It's proof that something still breathes in this dead world. I'm going to read something I found in an old emergency manual. It's from the Cold War days. In the event of nuclear exchange, citizens are advised to remain sheltered for no less than 14 days. Do not consume exposed water or food. Limit exposure to daylight. Await further instructions from local authorities. That line, await further instructions. That's what everyone did, right up until the end. Waited for orders from a sky that was already falling. There are no authorities left now. No instructions, just us, whispering into the dark. If you're listening, take this down. Store water underground if you can. Use old bottles, wrap them in cloth, and keep them sealed. If you have any kind of metal shielding, tin, lead, even scrap roofing, use it to line whatever space you sleep in. The fallout dust is fine as flour. You can't see it until it's too late. I've been rationing what little canned food I have left. Beans, corn, some fruit that's probably half spoiled. The metal lids hiss when I open them. I eat slow, not because I'm hungry, but because it gives me something to do. There's something strange happening with the birds, or what's left of them. I saw one yesterday. It was perched on the wire outside, feathers half burned, eyes bright white. It didn't move when I walked close. It just stared until I looked away. Then it flew off, silent, wings stiff like paper. Maybe nature's adapting faster than we are. A few days ago, someone called in from what used to be Detroit. Said he'd been scavenging in the lower tunnels, the old subway lines. He said people were living down there, whole families, moving deeper every day, away from the surface. He called them the burrowers. He said they light the tunnels with generator bulbs and burn plastic for warmth. The air smells like melted wires. He tried to join them, but they didn't let him in. Said they don't take outsiders anymore. Before the line cut, he whispered, "They think the sky's poison." I don't think they're wrong. It's strange how fast we've become ghosts. 18 days. That's all it took for everything to turn into memory. Sometimes I try to remember what life sounded like before. Traffic, dogs barking, music leaking from open car windows. Now it's just the soft hum of machines dying one by one. If you can hear me, you're not alone. I'll keep this channel open through the night. The next segment will come after the next signal pulse. If the static shifts, that means we're still connected. Stay underground, stay quiet, and if you see the sky glow brighter than it should, don't look. This is Isaac Rowe, 99.4 FM, signing out for the hour. It's 4:06 a.m. now. The wind has changed again. I can hear it scraping against the north side of the station like a sandstorm, even though there's no sand, just powdered glass and ash. The air carries it like snowdrift, whispering across the roof. Every gust sounds like a match being struck. There used to be a field out back where I'd walk when the signal dropped. You could see all the way to the tree line then. Now it's just a black plain. The ground is cracked and silver. Sometimes, when I press my ear to the floor, I swear I can hear faint rumbling underneath, like something still burning deep below the surface. I keep thinking about the first strike, the way the air turned white before the sound even reached us. Everyone said it couldn't happen, that no one would be stupid enough to do it. But it did, and it was faster than anyone could understand. The last image I remember from the old world was the TV flickering in the lobby here, a reporter's face frozen mid-sentence. Behind her, the skyline, glowing, falling, curling in on itself like paper. Then the feed cut. That was 18 days ago, but it feels like 100 years. I picked up a faint signal an hour ago on shortwave band 6. It was a low, repeating tone, followed by a woman's voice reading out coordinates. Latitude 39.2 north, longitude 105.1 west. That's somewhere near Boulder, Colorado. I tried sending back a response, but I don't think she heard me. The voice was steady, though. Calm, like she'd been doing it for days. That's the part that got me, the calmness. Maybe there's something out there. Maybe she's broadcasting from one of those old government shelters. If anyone's near Colorado, if you can hear me, try that coordinate. Try to find her. I got a letter 2 days ago, or what's left of one. It was taped to the outer fence, written in faded ink on part of a grocery bag. It said, Station 99.4. Your voice reached us. We're still alive. 3 of us. Heading west. No names. No direction. Just that. I stared at that piece of paper for hours. It means someone's listening. Someone out there heard the broadcast and believed it enough to write back. I don't know if they ever made it west or if they're still moving. But knowing they were out there, that's what kept me from turning the mic off for good. There's a smell in the air tonight. Sharp, metallic, like rain that never quite fell. I keep thinking maybe the clouds are close to breaking, that it'll finally wash some of this dust away. But the sky doesn't move anymore. It just hangs there, low and swollen, glowing faint red in the distance. I heard that near Chicago, the lakes have started steaming, boiling even. The temperature swings have gone mad. One night it's freezing, the next it's like standing near a furnace. A man named Will from Rockford called in 3 nights ago and said his thermometer read 120 during the day and 30 at night. That's not weather. That's chaos. He said people there were digging holes in parking lots trying to get underground. Said there was talk of the air turning poisonous in the mornings. Then his voice went quiet, and all I could hear was static, and something else underneath it. It sounded like singing. I replayed it a few times later. There's a faint hum in the background of the recording, almost rhythmic. Not a machine, not interference. Human voices. I don't know what language, but it sounded old. Maybe I'm just hearing ghosts in the wires. The battery light's blinking again. I'll switch to reserve soon. I've been saving fuel by shutting down between transmissions. It makes the silence harder, though. You start hearing things when it's too quiet. Your own heartbeat sounds like footsteps. Last night, I had a dream that I was walking through a city again. The streets were empty, but everything looked clean, untouched. There were no bodies, no debris, just cars parked perfectly along the curb. And every single one had its headlights on. No drivers, no sound, just white light pouring down an endless road. When I woke up, the power meter had reset itself to 0. I'm starting to think the world is replaying itself, like a loop that doesn't know it's broken. Earlier tonight, I found a working transistor buried in the maintenance closet. When I tuned it to AM, I caught a burst of something from what might have been Europe. The voice said, "European coalition reports catastrophic loss across all sectors. Geneva unresponsive. Dublin reports blackout. No contact with London." Then silence. No contact with London. I remember standing on that city's bridge once, years ago, before all this, watching the sun dip behind the buildings, feeling that quiet confidence cities always had, as if they could never die. But they did. In one flash. You can build anything out of concrete and glass and faith. But none of it matters when the sky turns against you. Someone asked me last week, how do you keep going when there's nothing left to go toward? I didn't know how to answer. I guess you keep going because stopping feels like betrayal. Like if you fall silent, you're admitting it's over. And I don't want it to be over. Not yet. I keep a little notebook now, where I write down the names of everyone who's called in. I'll read a few in case their families are listening. Dale from Kansas City, Will from Rockford, Marla from Little Rock, Everett from Nashville, Lena from somewhere near Des Moines, and the 3 who left the note. That's all I've got so far. If you're hearing this, you're part of that list now. There's something strange with the magnetometer readings tonight. The compass needle's twitching east and west like it's confused. The sky's faintly green toward the horizon, like the aurora, but wrong. Too low, too bright. Old textbooks said the northern lights were harmless. That was before radiation storms wrapped around the poles. Maybe what we're seeing now isn't beauty. Maybe it's just fallout painting the sky. I can't tell the difference anymore. The last message I intercepted came from a military band, probably automated. It repeated this line on loop. Strategic continuity compromised. Command relocation incomplete. Proceed with survival protocol. Then it switched to a countdown that never reached 0. I think that's the part that breaks me sometimes. The unfinished messages. The way every signal just fades mid-sentence, like the world's trying to speak and keeps choking on the words. I still check the sky every night for any sign of aircraft. Once, about a week ago, I saw something, a streak of light cutting west to east, too steady to be debris, too fast to be a plane. Maybe it was a satellite burning up, or maybe it was someone escaping. Sometimes I imagine there are still people up there, circling the dead planet, wondering why no one's answering their calls. If you're out there, keep your radio on Channel 14 between 3 and 5 a.m. I'll rebroadcast emergency tips again before dawn. If the air starts to taste metallic, if your skin starts to tingle, that's radiation. Cover up, move underground, stay near the densest material you can find. Rock, concrete, even stacks of books can help. Don't trust the daylight, and if you hear sirens, don't follow them. Most of the systems left running now are automated, looping like echoes from a dead command. They'll lure you toward what's left of the cities, and there's nothing there but fire. I should rest soon, but I can't. Sleep doesn't come easy when the dark outside feels alive. Sometimes I think about shutting it all off, the mic, the tower, the generator, and just walking until the static fades. But then I remember the note on the door. Keep talking. Someone is listening, so I will, until the last light dies. This is Isaac Rowe, 99.4 FM, still breathing in the static. I'll be back at 5 if the generator holds. If not, well, if not, it's been an honor speaking into the dark with you. Stay alive. Stay unseen. Don't look at the horizon if it starts to glow. It's 5:11 a.m. now. I can't tell if the sun's trying to rise, or if that orange light on the horizon is just another fire. Either way, it paints the same scene, an empty field that used to feed a town, and a sky that doesn't care what it's burning. The wind stopped. That's the worst sign. When it's quiet, you start to notice what the silence hides. The faint ticking of the walls, the soft static from the wires, and underneath all that, a low hum, like the earth's holding its breath. I don't know what day of the week it is anymore. The calendar doesn't matter, but I still cross out each sunrise, what's left of it, just to feel time move forward. I've marked 18 of them. 18 since the first wave hit. 18 days since the light swallowed everything east of here. I remember what the first day felt like. The news broke around noon. It wasn't even dramatic at first. Just a possible detonation. Then a confirmed strike. Cameras cut to anchors whispering off screen. Phones buzzing. Graphics glitching mid-broadcast. By the time the first shockwave reached us, the power was already gone. The windows bowed in, but didn't shatter. I thought it was thunder until the pressure dropped and the sky turned white. I don't think anyone who saw it from up close had time to realize what they were looking at. That night, the stars vanished, and they haven't come back since. I got a call an hour ago. A weak signal. The voice was trembling, but clear enough to make out. A woman named Tessa from Peoria. She said her basement's flooded with ash, that her kids keep asking when the sun's coming back. She said they've been melting snow for water, even though it's black and grainy now. She asked if I thought it was safe to drink. I didn't know how to tell her no. Before the signal cut, she said something that's been sitting with me. The birds came back, but they don't make any noise. Then the static took her. I replayed her message after, and she's right. There's this faint fluttering sound before the line dies. Not wind, not feedback, just wings. I don't know what's happening out there anymore. The battery alarm's blinking again, but I'll keep going until the tone cuts out. It's strange. Before all this, I used to think radio was old-fashioned. Just noise for truckers and late-night loners. Now, it's the only heartbeat left. The air itself carries the memory of who we were. I keep thinking of the phrase they used to put on old transmitters. The voice of the nation. But what nation? What's left to speak for? Now it's just me, the static, and a world that can't decide if it wants to keep breathing. I found an old emergency log from this station's archives earlier. It's dated April 12th, 1962, during the Cuban crisis. The entry says, "If the signal goes dark, assume command structure failure. Switch to continuous broadcast mode until confirmed otherwise." 60 years later, and here we are again. Same fear, different names. History doesn't repeat. It mutates. There's a deep rumbling to the west tonight. It doesn't sound like thunder. More like a slow, grinding roar, like a mountain sliding apart. I think it's the fault line shifting. The old geologists used to warn that a nuclear shock could wake the plates. Maybe they were right. If you're anywhere near the Mississippi Basin, stay away from bridges. They're unstable now. Supports melted from the heat and weakened by aftershocks. Stick to ground level. Avoid tunnels. I know it sounds obvious, but when panic hits, people forget the basics. There's a strange kind of beauty in all this ruin. I looked out earlier and saw something moving in the sky. Not clouds, but streaks of light weaving through the haze. Maybe debris, maybe aurora, maybe something new the world's creating out of its own death. It's hard to hate the planet for fighting back. I used to think about how fragile everything was, how thin the walls between order and chaos really were. I'd see kids playing on their phones, cars rushing past, people arguing about coffee orders. And I'd think, if the grid went down for 1 week, it'd all fall apart. Turns out I was an optimist. It didn't take a week. It took a day. The last time I heard music was 2 nights ago. Some station far south, maybe in Texas, still had an auto loop running. It was a folk song, half static, half guitar. I don't remember the words, but I remember how it made me stop breathing for a moment. The melody was so normal, like the world hadn't ended, just paused. When the generator hums like it does now, I sometimes imagine there's a song hiding under it. Maybe that's how memory works. Your brain turns noise into comfort because it's too afraid of silence. I need to tell you something that's been eating at me. A few nights ago, I picked up a short burst transmission from what sounded like a military channel. The voice was distorted, but clear enough. Echo Red Protocol confirmed. Northern Command compromised. Evacuation halted. Repeat. Halted. Then a pause, and another voice whispered, "They did it themselves." I don't know what that means, but I think it confirms what people have been whispering. That some of the detonations weren't enemy strikes. That maybe someone hit their own soil to stop the spread. When I think about that, I feel something deep inside me twist. Because if that's true, then it wasn't war. It was surrender. I don't even know what victory means anymore. Nobody wins a world that looks like this. You ever walk outside after rain when the air feels heavy and the ground smells alive? That's gone now. The earth smells tired, like something ancient finally giving up. Someone once told me that humans would survive anything, that we're stubborn enough to crawl through the ashes and rebuild. Maybe that's true, but I keep wondering if the world even wants us back. Every time I step outside, I can feel it watching. The wind doesn't just move anymore, it stares. I know this all sounds grim, but there are moments, little flickers of hope that sneak in between the static. Like yesterday, when I saw a small cluster of lights on the ridge to the south. They blinked 3 times, paused, then blinked again. Morse code, maybe. I tried sending a flash back with my signal lamp, but nothing returned. Still, that means someone's alive out there. And that's enough. If you're still breathing, still listening, don't let the silence convince you that you're the last one. There are others, hidden, waiting. Keep your head low when the ground hums. Don't trust calm weather. It's never calm for long. And if you find a note or a voice that says, "Keep talking," do it. That's all that's keeping us tethered now, the sound of each other. It's almost dawn, or what passes for it now. The horizon's faint red again. Could be fire, could be light trying to return. I'll take either. The generator's cooling down. I'll cut transmission for an hour to save what's left. This is Isaac Rowe, 99.4 FM. Still here, still talking, still waiting for someone to answer. If you can hear me, just say something back. Anything. 6:28 a.m. The generator just came back online. The lights flickered once, then steadied. For a moment, I thought the hum of the machine was thunder. But no, the sky's too still for that. The clouds haven't moved since last night. They hang low and flat, like they're pressing down on the earth. You can't see where the horizon begins anymore. Everything just blends together. It's been nearly an hour since my last check-in. During the blackout, I walked outside to breathe what's left of the morning air. It felt colder than usual. The kind of cold that bites your lungs, even when the wind's still. The ash drifted around my boots like smoke. I found the old radio tower bent halfway over, its metal ribs rusted orange from the fallout rain. The antennas are gone. The only thing holding it upright is the wire I tied with my belt 2 nights ago. When I looked west, I saw something I can't explain. A long line of lights, tiny, steady, like lanterns, moving slow along the horizon. At first, I thought it was a convoy, but they were too evenly spaced, too quiet. Maybe reflections, maybe hallucinations. I'm not sure what's real anymore when the air itself distorts. I used to think the scariest sound was sirens. Now, it's the sound of nothing. Before the war, when I'd drive home at night, I could always hear the world. Crickets, traffic, a plane somewhere high above. Now, it's all gone. The silence isn't peaceful. It's enormous. It fills everything. And when you hear it long enough, you start talking to it. That's what I'm doing, I guess. Talking to the silence. I picked up a faint shortwave burst around 5:50 a.m., a voice repeating a message in broken English. This is the Arcadian Relay. Survivors welcome. Radiation threshold moderate. Then coordinates. 41 north, 91 west. That's somewhere near Iowa City. I tried to respond, but the signal looped. Exactly the same words, same pauses, like a recording on repeat. I don't know if anyone's alive there, or if it's just a machine still running. Still, if you're anywhere near Iowa, it might be worth checking. Bring iodine. Bring water. Bring silence. I found an old Polaroid wedged under the desk here. A group photo. 5 people, all wearing station badges. They're smiling, holding paper cups. Someone wrote, First broadcast of the new year, on the back. The year says 1993. They probably stood in this same room. Same desk, same cracked floor tile by the generator switch. I wonder what they'd think if they could see it now. Walls blackened from smoke, half the ceiling gone, the whole place smelling like dust and burnt metal. I keep staring at their faces. They look so ordinary. The kind of happiness you don't realize is rare until it's gone. Sometimes I talk to them when the mic's off. I tell them we're still trying, that someone has to remember this place existed, that they didn't build all this for nothing. Maybe that's all I'm doing here, keeping the ghosts company. The sky's lighter now, but not blue, more like pale gray smeared with copper. You can see the shape of the sun, but it doesn't shine. It just glows behind the clouds, dull and weak, like it's dying too. I took the Geiger counter outside earlier. The clicks are slower than yesterday, which means radiation's dropping. Not much, but enough to move around without coughing up blood. Maybe in another few weeks, the air will clear enough for people to walk during the day again. If there are people left to walk. I can still smell the smoke from last night's fires. Somewhere north, something big was burning. Maybe a refinery, maybe what's left of a city. The wind carries that oily scent, like melted plastic and metal. It coats everything, even your skin. No matter how much you wash, it lingers. I keep a rag over my mouth now when I sleep. It helps with the taste, but not the dreams. There's something I need to read. It's a transcript I found from an intercepted emergency message, dated day 12. It says, "Command has fallen. President unconfirmed. Multiple governments reporting system collapse. Submarine fleets unresponsive. Civilian networks offline. To all remaining operators, prioritize human contact. Preserve testimony. Document what remains." That last line, preserve testimony. That's why I'm still here. I don't have orders. I don't have hope. But I can talk. And maybe somewhere, someone will remember these words when it's safe to come back. 6:49 a.m. Now. The air pressure's dropping again. I can feel it in my ears. I keep thinking about that word, Arcadian. It doesn't sound military. It sounds peaceful, almost poetic. Like they named the last safe place after a dream. If it's real, if someone's really out there, maybe that's where people are gathering. Maybe there's still a pulse left in this world. Yesterday, when I was scavenging behind the gas station half a mile down, I found a radio still plugged into a car battery. Someone had carved words into the hood with a knife. We waited too long. There was a body nearby, sitting against the pump, wrapped in a blanket. I didn't check the face. I just closed the blanket tighter and walked away. You stop feeling shock after a while. It becomes background, like static. When the bombs fell, I remember the way people ran, not away from danger, but towards screens, trying to see it for themselves. They wanted proof that it was really happening. That's the strangest thing about humans. We won't believe the end until it's right in front of us. And when it comes, we stare straight into it. I can't stop thinking about what Tessa from Peoria said. The birds coming back, but silent. That image keeps looping in my head. Maybe that's what survival looks like now. Life that remembers sound but no longer makes it. Maybe we'll become that too. Shadows of ourselves. Quiet. If anyone's listening near the Rockies, Denver, Boulder, Fort Collins, try to reach the Arcadian frequency. I'll repeat the coordinates before I sign off. 41 degrees north, 91 degrees west. broadcasting every 6 hours on Channel 6 shortwave. I don't know what you'll find there, but if it's real, tell them Isaac Rowe sent you. Tell them we're still here. It's strange how quickly the mind adapts. 18 days ago, if you told me I'd be sitting in a bunker, eating cold beans and talking to ghosts, I'd have laughed. Now it's just routine. I don't think humans were built for this much quiet. I think we were made to fill it. I'll run the emergency signal again soon. Maybe the Arcadian relay will pick it up. Maybe someone will answer this time. Until then, this is Isaac Rowe, 99.4 FM. Still transmitting. Still breathing. Still waiting. Stay under cover. Don't trust clear skies. And if you hear the hum, get underground. 7:42 a.m. The signal just flickered again. I thought it was interference, but the pattern repeated. 3 bursts. Pause. 3 bursts. Someone's out there. Maybe a relay from that Arcadian channel, or maybe it's just static playing tricks. Hard to tell anymore. I'm running on half power now. The generator's coughing more than usual, and the fuel gauge has dropped lower than I want to admit. I tried draining the last of the gas from one of the cars out back, but the lines were dry. The ground around them smells of oil and rot, like everything mechanical is bleeding out. The cold's worse today. My breath fogs up the glass every time I lean near the window. It's hard to describe how dead the air feels. Like it's heavy, but hollow, pressing against you without warmth. The kind of cold that doesn't sting. It just seeps in until you can't feel your hands. I wrapped the mic cord around my wrist so I don't drop it when I start shaking. My fingers go numb sometimes, and I worry I'll let the whole thing slip and cut the signal for good. I found an old emergency radio manual a few hours ago. It says that after major nuclear events, shortwave reflections can bounce across the upper atmosphere, signals from faraway places caught in loops, repeating like echoes from another time. I've been thinking about that. Maybe some of the voices we're hearing aren't alive anymore. Maybe they're just trapped transmissions, caught circling the planet forever, like ghosts repeating their last words. If that's true, then this whole station is a graveyard of sound. I took a walk around the station perimeter earlier. The frost has started creeping up the fence posts, tiny white veins crawling over rust. It's beautiful, in a cruel way. I stepped too close to the edge of the field and nearly tripped over what used to be a sign. It said, "Safe Zone, FEMA Temporary Camp." The arrows were burned off. Whatever camp they built out there didn't last long. The ground is littered with the metal skeletons of tents, all flattened by the wind or fire. There's a radio antenna in the dirt, still upright, with a cracked speaker dangling from it. When the wind blows just right, it makes this whistling noise, almost like breath. Sometimes I mistake it for voices. Around 6 o'clock, I thought I heard people talking outside the station. I went to the door, opened it just a crack. The field was empty. The sound faded when I stepped out. When I came back in, the temperature had dropped by at least 10 degrees. I could see frost forming on the inside of the door, right where my hand had been. It's getting colder faster than it should. Maybe it's just weather distortion, or maybe it's fallout settling deeper into the atmosphere. Either way, I can feel the difference. Every breath feels like glass. I want to tell you about something that happened last night. At around midnight, I picked up a voice transmission from a man who said he was broadcasting from somewhere near Omaha. He sounded calm, too calm. Said his name was Howard. He told me he'd been living in a missile control silo that was converted into a shelter years ago. He said they'd sealed it shut when the first strike hit, and that there were 9 people down there with him. They had power, water, food. But here's the part that chilled me. He said the doors locked from the outside. They couldn't get out even if they wanted to. The system treated them like the crew it was meant to protect. But the higher-ups never sent the release code. They were trapped in their own bunker. He said they'd started losing oxygen 2 days ago. Then, the line cut mid-sentence. I haven't heard from him since. I used to think safety was something you could build. That you could hide from disaster if you planned enough, saved enough, stayed far enough. But the truth is, the world's too small for that now. There's nowhere to run when the air itself turns against you. I keep my flashlight on the desk next to me. Its beam is dim, yellow, and flickers every few minutes. But it's comforting. I catch my reflection in the window sometimes. Just a shadow holding a microphone, surrounded by ash. I look older than I remember. I'm 37. Feels like I've lived 5 lifetimes since this started. There's a hum running through the wires now. Not the generator, something else. A lower tone, steady and faint. I think it's coming from the power grid remnants still buried beneath the ground. Every once in a while it pulses, like the earth is exhaling. I don't know if that's normal, but I've stopped trusting the word normal. Earlier this morning, I heard from a man named Ben, calling from outside Wichita. His voice was thin, but he managed to get through. He said the fires finally burned out there. He said he saw the sky for the first time in 2 weeks, gray but open. He said the stars looked different now, like they were moving. When I asked him what he meant, the signal cracked, and I lost him. But right before it died, I swear I heard him whisper, "They're coming down." I've been wondering if there's still an orbit left up there. The old satellites, the debris, the stations. Are they still circling a dead planet? Or did they fall too? If any of them are still working, maybe they're picking up our signals, turning this whole planet into one big feedback loop. A world talking to itself. I'm drinking the last of the clean water now. There's more in the storage tank outside, but it's probably contaminated. I'll boil it if I can get a fire going. I've tried before, but the air's too thin. Matches don't burn the same. The flame dances weak, sputtering, like it's suffocating. It's funny. The fire used to be the thing we feared most. Now I'd give anything just to see one burn steady again. I keep thinking about my sister. She lived on the coast. I haven't heard from her since the first week. I tried calling her number until the lines died. Sometimes I imagine she made it inland, maybe found one of those safe corridors the government promised. They said there were convoys heading west for civilians, but I've never met anyone who saw one. If she's still alive, I hope she found somewhere with light. Somewhere without this endless hum. The last thing I picked up before dawn was a short, automated code. Old military encryption. The kind they used during drills. It repeated 3 words in looped Morse. Stand by. Stand by. Stand by. No location, no origin, just those words. It's strange how 3 words can sound like both a command and a prayer. I don't know how long I can keep broadcasting, but I'll hold this frequency for as long as I can. If you're listening, anywhere, try to respond after this next transmission cycle. Even if it's just static, even if you're whispering through an old walkie. The world may have gone quiet, but I need to know there's still someone out there to hear this. This is Isaac Rowe, 99.4 FM. Still here, still talking, still waiting for a voice to answer. If the light comes back, don't waste it. 8:56 a.m. The tower's shaking again. Not from wind. There's no wind this morning. It's the kind of vibration that comes from deep under the ground, like a slow heartbeat rising through the soil. You can feel it if you press your hand to the floor. The cans on the shelf rattle every few seconds, keeping rhythm with something I can't name. It's been an hour since the last signal burst from Iowa City. I've been trying to re-establish contact, but the frequency keeps folding into static. Every time I get close, the interference spikes, then fades to that same hollow silence. Either they're gone, or the storm took their antenna. The storm, yeah, that's new. The sky looks bruised, heavy, almost green. A fine mist has started falling, but it isn't rain. It leaves stains where it lands, dark patches that eat through the dust. I wiped some off the windowsill earlier, and my glove started smoking. Acid rain. I sealed the door tighter after that. The air tastes sharp, even inside. The temperature's dropped to 38 degrees. Too cold for November in this part of the Midwest. The manual says fallout clouds can cause global cooling, blocking sunlight like volcanic ash. Maybe that's what we're seeing now. The start of a nuclear winter. If you're out there, cover your vents. Tape the seams. Don't let the air in unless you have to. I had a dream while the generator cooled earlier. I was standing in an open field, barefoot, and the grass was growing fast. Up my legs, wrapping around me, pulling me down. The sun was bright, but when I looked up, there were no clouds, no sky, just the reflection of my own face, upside down, like the world had become a mirror. When I woke up, the mic was still on. I'd been talking in my sleep. My voice was playing through the monitor, repeating nonsense phrases I don't remember saying. I've left it on ever since. Maybe someone heard me. Maybe not. At 8:10, I heard what sounded like an explosion far east. Faint but deep, like thunder trapped underground. The vibration hit the station 30 seconds later. The power flickered. Could have been a gas line blowing. Could have been another detonation. There's no way to know anymore. The world's lost its sense of direction. Every sound feels close, like the sky's leaning in to listen. You know what I miss most? Ordinary sound. I miss the way a refrigerator hums, how a phone vibrates on a countertop, how tires crunch on wet gravel. Noise meant life. Movement. Now everything's too still. When I was a kid, I used to complain about the cicadas outside my window. They never stopped. Every summer night, that endless drone would keep me awake. I'd give anything to hear it again. Anything that proves nature's still breathing. A few minutes ago, I thought I saw someone moving beyond the ridge. A dark figure walking slow through the ash. Too far to tell if it was real. I flashed the signal light twice, no reaction. I waited. Then they vanished. Maybe it was smoke. Maybe I'm seeing what I want to see. But it reminded me, I'm not ready to die here. Not yet. Let me tell you about the last normal moment I remember. It was day 0, maybe an hour before the first blast. I was sitting in a diner off the highway, coffee half empty, news playing low on a screen near the counter. Everyone was pretending not to listen. You could feel it, the dread hanging between sentences. The waitress poured refills with shaking hands. A man in a suit was arguing quietly with someone on the phone. A little girl was drawing on a napkin with a red crayon. Her mom told her not to use red. It looked too much like blood. That's the last color I remember clearly before the light hit. Red. The emergency radio manual says panic usually fades after the first week of catastrophe. People stop screaming, stop running, and start adapting. It doesn't mean hope, it just means exhaustion. That's what the world feels like now. Not chaos, not fear, just quiet exhaustion. Around 7 o'clock, I tuned into the long wave band again. Picked up a faint repeating chime. 5 tones, then a pause. It reminded me of the old BBC time signal, but the pattern was wrong, too irregular. It's possible it's coming from one of the European fallback networks, but if so, it's weak. If you have access to long wave, try scanning between 198 and 202 kilohertz. You might hear it too. It repeats every 42 seconds. I keep wondering if it's human, or if some machine's just following old programming, counting down to something that's never coming. There's a note I wrote to myself last night. Don't talk about the mirrors. I don't remember writing it. I think it means reflections. The light bouncing wrong. It's happening again today. The puddles outside don't reflect right anymore. They shimmer like oil, but when you look close, the shapes move on their own. It's like seeing another world overlap this one, burned, brighter, full of movement. Maybe radiation does that to the air. Maybe it's just my brain failing. Either way, I keep the curtains closed now. Someone left a message on the emergency band around 8:30. A man's voice, hoarse, repeating one phrase. They opened the vault. He said it 3 times, then screamed. The transmission cut. No coordinates, no ID, just that. I don't know which vault he meant. Could be military, could be civilian, could be nothing at all. But I keep thinking about those old government shelters, how they sealed themselves in during the first days. If someone opened one now, after weeks in the dark, what would they find? There's a metal photo frame on the desk beside me. I don't know who the people in it are. 2 adults, a kid, maybe 5 years old. The glass is cracked across their faces. I keep it here anyway. It makes the room feel less empty. Sometimes, when the power dips, the reflection in the glass shifts a little. Their faces blur. I tell myself it's just the flickering light. But last night, for a split second, I swear they were smiling again. 8:59 a.m. The acid rain's still falling. The drops hiss when they hit the roof. If it keeps up, I'll lose the antenna entirely. If anyone's still listening. The Arcadian relay coordinates remain unchanged. 41 degrees north, 91 degrees west. If you can move, head there. Travel by night. Stay off open roads. Use the ditches or woods. Avoid cities. Avoid lights. And if you hear music playing anywhere, it's not safe. That's not human. This is Isaac Rowe, 99.4 FM. Still here. Still holding the line. If this world wants silence, it'll have to take me with it. Stay alive. Stay unseen. Keep moving west. 10:17 a.m. I just woke up to the sound of metal shifting above the station. For a moment, I thought the roof was collapsing, but it was only the antenna cable whipping against the mast. The winds picked up again, carrying that dry, metallic smell, the kind that cuts through your throat when you breathe. The acid rain stopped sometime around 9, but what's left behind is worse. Everything outside looks burned smooth, as if the air itself scraped the color off the world. Even the trees are the same shade of gray now. You can't tell the living from the dead unless you stare long enough to see which way the wind bends them. I tried transmitting on all frequencies just before dawn. Nothing came back but a low hum, steady, too precise to be static. It pulsed every 7 seconds. If it's a coded signal, I can't break it. But it feels deliberate. I think someone, or something, is trying to stay hidden. I keep turning the dial hoping for a voice, but all I hear are ghosts. Half phrases cut into static, soft crying buried under distortion. The radio's become a grave. Every sound is a last breath caught in the wire. And yet, it's the only company I have left. A few minutes ago, I thought I heard footsteps on the gravel outside. Slow, dragging, careful. I grabbed the flashlight and turned it off just to listen. The sound stopped immediately. When I stepped to the door, there were prints in the dust. Bare feet, small ones. Children don't survive out here. Not for long. I waited an hour before checking again. The prints were gone. Either the wind erased them, or they never existed. Sometimes I think the radiation is doing things to me, making me see movement where there's none, turning light into shape. The silence amplifies it. The brain starts to fill in what's missing. When you haven't heard another person in days, even shadows start to sound alive. I remember a story my grandfather used to tell about how, during the Cold War, farmers would test their soil with Geiger counters just to be sure the wind hadn't brought something invisible over their fields. He said they trusted the machines more than their own senses. Now I get it. The machine doesn't lie. It just hums. And right now, the counter's ticking faster. That means the wind shifted again. A man named Reggie from Springfield tried to call in about an hour ago. His voice was faint, almost lost under interference, but I caught a few words. The rivers are gone. He said the Mississippi turned black overnight, bubbling like tar. He said people had been trying to filter it, but it burned through plastic and fabric alike. He said, the fish have eyes like glass now. Then silence. I replayed the recording 3 times. Each time, just before his voice fades, you can hear something else, whispering. Not his, not human, just a sound that vibrates through the static like wind through bone. I've stopped replaying it. You know, before all this, I used to think the end of the world would be quick. A flash, a shockwave, a fade to black. But no, this is slow. It's drawn out like a bad dream that never ends. Every morning, the world wakes up a little smaller. I've started marking each broadcast on the wall behind me, thin scratches with a screwdriver. 18 so far. The plaster's starting to crumble where I carve, but it keeps me grounded. Proof that time still exists. It's strange. Out here, you lose sense of what's real faster than you lose hope. The compass on my desk stopped working around 9:30. The needle spins in lazy circles. Same with the old clock I found under the console. It resets every few minutes. That's not supposed to happen. It means the magnetic field's gone erratic. Maybe from the bombs. Maybe from something deeper. I think the Earth itself is confused. I've been drinking melted condensation from the air ducts. It's bitter, but cleaner than what's outside. I heat it with the radio tubes until it's warm enough to trick my body into thinking it's coffee. Sometimes I pretend I'm still sitting in that diner before the blast, waiting for someone to pour me a refill. The way things were so ordinary before the light came. I can almost hear the sound of ceramic cups clinking together, smell the butter on toast. Then the wind howls through the vents, and I remember where I am. I've been thinking a lot about faith lately. Not the religious kind, but the stubborn human kind. The part of you that keeps whispering, maybe tomorrow. Even when tomorrow doesn't mean anything anymore. I think that's what keeps people alive. Not food, not shelter. Just the refusal to believe that silence is the end. Around 9:50, I heard a broadcast fragment on the lower bands, British accent, distorted, probably from across the Atlantic. I couldn't make out the words clearly, but I think I heard. Last survivors regrouped, Maritime Fleet, heading south. If that's true, maybe some naval units made it out. Maybe they're sailing toward the southern hemisphere, where the fallout's thinner. I hope they do. The world deserves at least one place untouched. I caught my reflection in the glass of the transmitter just now. My face doesn't look the same anymore. The skin around my eyes is pale, almost translucent. My hair's turning gray at the edges. I don't know if it's radiation or exhaustion. Maybe both. I keep thinking about how strange it'll be if someone finds this place months from now, plays these recordings, and hears a stranger's voice slowly falling apart. I wonder if they'll recognize it as human. 10:27 a.m. The hum's getting louder. The ground trembled again a few minutes ago, longer this time. If it's aftershocks, they're moving closer. I'll stay on the air as long as the generator holds. If it dies, I'll switch to shortwave backup. To whoever's listening, keep your lights off. Stay low. If you hear deep thunder that doesn't fade, that's not a storm. That's the ground itself cracking. And if you see lights moving in formation overhead, don't signal them. They're not friendly. This is Isaac Rowe, 99.4 FM, still transmitting through the static, still breathing through the dust. If you can hear me, then you're proof the world hasn't completely gone silent. Hold on to that.